Hello, no, I don't like that at all. I feel like I say hello, everybody, every time, and it's starting to sound too familiar.
To Markiplier.
Is that what he said? I never watched
Yeah, he goes,
Markiplier.
"Hello, everybody, it's Markiplier." Yeah, that's what he does.
All right, I'll hit him with something new, something snazzy. What's up, dudes? Welcome back to the High Quality Podcast, the only podcast that claims to be weekly but dies anyway. As always, I'm your host, New Guy, and today I'm joined by a very special guest, a longtime friend of mine, Sean Patrick. Hello, Sean.
Hey,
Thank you for joining me this week. I'm excited to have you on here because you are like the first person of the people I've talked to so far that like I've known for a good while, you know?
right? Yeah, I mean, I remember you joining fan server and just kind of seeing you with the wagon profile picture and not knowing what to expect at all.
Hmm.
Like, you just seemed like this very normal person. And then now I know that that is entirely false.
Right. I played a long con. I came in and I tried to play it as cool as possible, and then once I sort of had my in, I revealed my true colors of being a jester.
So
But
you're not actually a red wagon.
right.
You're another color.
I was just thinking today when I was getting ready for the podcast about how like our first big main interaction was like me scoring your VGM guessing game that time.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, how did that happen again? Was I
I
just
don't
like, yo, new guy, can you score my game? Like,
I think I volunteer. I think you were like
I
running the
needed someone
list.
else.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I was like, I'll do it. And then I did it and we became friends. Just like
Yeah.
that. Magical.
It was
Plug
all a
for
tactic to get in on the
right.
mod team, I'm sure, but
I socially engineered you so I could work my way up the ladder. And I laugh, but it worked. But also it's not but also plug for the fan server and the guessing games and stuff. If you're not on the fan server yet, please go do that. It's a good place with good people.
yeah, they just did their 400th guessing game.
Yeah.
And I could only stick around for the beginning, but I mean, like, I'm really happy when I see that, like, we're hitting those milestones,
Hmm.
because the fact that it was able to go for this long is so cool.
I know. I think about it a lot, like definitely with the guessing games, but just the server in general. Like, if nobody ever would have thought that like the fan server for Siiva Gunner would continue to live on and be like so strong almost 4 years into its life. Like,
I think about this every time, too, because it's like, you know, it, public servers, especially, like, public meme servers, if you're,
hmm.
like, around a community or a specific person that creates, like, funny videos, you're bound to crash and burn eventually. Like, you're making a community that is eventually going to get really frustrating,
Hmm.
or like branch off into their own thing, which, I mean, fanserver has, but it's also maintained this like really concrete quality.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, I mean, I've fallen in and out of fanserver myself,
Sure.
but I mean, overall, I'm shocked that we haven't gotten there yet.
I
And that,
know.
like, I guess, you know what? I'm gonna give ourselves pats on the back, because
Yeah.
obviously we're good mods. That's why we've managed to keep this community, because we know when to step in and pull the plug and stuff.
Hmm.
I'm sure that's part of it.
Definitely.
I mean,
I
not that I
mean,
can take credit for the past like 2 years,
right.
but you know what I mean.
It's so crazy. Like, obviously I've been on Discord for years now, and like I've been around the block. I've joined like lots of different servers, and the big ones, like the big public, YouTube channel servers or stuff like that, like they always suck. Like they're
Right? Yeah.
so it's just so impressive to me that like our little corner of the internet continues to be like the shit continually.
It's an anomaly.
Yeah,
It really
it
is.
really is. I don't know. Obviously, like you said, pat ourselves on the back, but like still, it's crazy to me. But
No, yeah. I mean, the people there are awesome.
mhm,
I've met so many good friends on that
yeah,
server.
yeah, definitely. And of course, like anything, it definitely has its ups and its downs. But
No,
overall
absolutely.
net positive for sure. But so I mean that's fan server, right? I didn't have you want to talk about the fan server. I want to talk about the man behind. Not that I don't know, dude. Fan server's got me thinking about Five Nights at Freddy's all the time now. But the man behind the what's the oh my god, I can't even think of the name of the anime that your picture's from. It's like Urusei
Yatsura.
Yatsura. I want to know the man behind the Urusei Yatsura picture. So like always, we're gonna do the classic rundowns. Let's start with you
All right.
and video games. Tell me about you and video games.
All right. So honestly, I got a really late start to video games. Because I'm turning 21 in a few days.
Oh, congrats!
Thank you. And but I got my first console in third grade.
Okay.
So that was the Wii. I started with the Wii.
Wow.
But I did play GameCube at friends' houses. There were a few games that I would go to friends' houses specifically and ask them like, "Can we play this? Can we play this?" And I think I really like annoyed them asking for that every time.
Yeah.
But I really liked playing Super Monkey Ball and Battle for Bikini Bottom.
Okay. Yeah.
At friends' houses, and
Okay.
that was like my, I guess, introduction. I played online games and stuff. I kept myself busy with Flash games.
Oh
But,
yeah, dude.
But then I got the Wii, and once I played Mario Kart Wii, like I was instantly in love with Nintendo. Like it was
Yeah.
like I just deep dove into Mario and got to know all of those characters. Then eventually I played Brawl, and I mean that opened up
Oh.
so many other things
Oh
for
yeah.
me. I remember the first time I played Brawl too. I picked DDD at my cousin's house, which is funny because DDD is my main now, but I had no idea who he was at the time. I'm just like, this is a really funny fat penguin in the game, and I want to play as him. And I guess in retrospect, it's pretty cool how like my tastes have remained pretty consistent. It's just I know a lot more about things now.
Yeah.
So that's where it started.
I remember when I first played Brawl, I like, because I was not too similar to you. Like I'd played video games before, but the Wii was really like my like the first console where I was at the right age to like really appreciate what I was doing, you know?
Yeah, totally.
And when I got Brawl, I think it's the reason why a lot of people love Subspace Emissary so much. Is because like it exposes you to all those characters in that like crazy unique setting, and like you see them interact with each other.
Yeah, it makes you like really feel for all of those characters and get to know them better. Like, I love Smash to this day, but like, there's something lost along the way. Like, we don't get to spend as much time with the characters.
Definitely.
With such a huge roster, you obviously don't have as much ability to do that. But back in Melee, back in Brawl, like that roster felt like a family.
Definitely. Even the intro cutscene in Melee, like that cutscene alone had so much more like character to it and like individuality to it than I think you would get in like Smash Ultimate.
Yeah, because now it's just like Nintendo theme.
Yeah,
you know, like it's the same thing with Mario Kart, like the Mario Kart 8 menu.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like all right, but like the futuristic vibe of like Mario Kart DS's menu and Wii.
Oh yeah,
it's like so cool, and then you just get like this minimalist look for Mario Kart 8. That's very different from the Smash menus, but I think Nintendo kind of has this homogenized style that has kind of found its way into all of its main series.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I want them to break away from that, because I was going to mention too, like, the Wii is so underrated in retrospect. Like,
that's a hot take.
No, because like
the best-selling
people look
console.
at the Wii as like, oh, it's the best-selling console ever. You could play because it introduced a lot of casual gamers, video games.
Yeah,
you can play Wii Sports, most accessible Mario Kart. Like, oh, you can play with a wheel now. You know, like the gimmick stuff is what drove people in.
Definitely,
but people don't give enough props to like the Wii as an experimental library of games. Like, you have so many cool games in there. Super Paper Mario is one of my favorite games ever.
That game is so fucking cool.
I love it. It's so one good. it's one of the games that really showed me, like, oh wow, this is the kind of story that like I want to see told in video games.
Yeah.
And I was surprised to get that from a Mario game because I went in kind of expecting something relatively simple. But and I know like Super Paper Mario is kind of like a hot topic among Paper Mario fans because people don't really know what to think of it. Shout out to SSB Seal who insists that it is not a real Paper Mario game.
I hate that so much. It's like, what is the point of that argument? What are you trying to accomplish?
Okay, so I would agree that it's like kind of like a spin-off if Paper Mario continued down the 1,000-Year Door path later on.
Yeah.
But since it's shifted so much, it's like, is there even a real Paper Mario at this point? It's just kind of like a lot of different stuff. I mean, that's obviously a hot topic now with the new Paper Mario revealed, which I'm withholding judgment on because I haven't seen nearly enough to make a final word on that.
Yeah.
But I will say part of what I loved about Super Paper Mario is the unique characters.
Yeah.
And like that's a real testament to, I think, the risks that they were willing to take at the time. They were just like, oh, let's make a Mario story, but introduce all of these weird characters that nobody knows yet.
Which is something that I feel like Nintendo just doesn't do that much of anymore, and it's so disappointing.
I don't think they do either. Although, I'll give props to Odyssey.
That's what I was gonna say. I would say Odyssey is like the exception, where like it seemed like they were trying to tap into that like old school charm.
It's kind of flipped it on its head too, because like the Wii, like other games in the Wii library, you have like Mario Strikers Charged, which is like so cool.
Yeah, I've actually never played that, but I've always wanted to.
I've played it at friends' houses. I don't have it, but it's like such a weirdly unique vibe for Mario, like this gritty Mario game.
Yeah,
where with these jagged lines, it's really cool. And then you also have Super Sluggers, which has such a gigantic roster.
That game is so good.
It is. I had so much fun with it as a kid. I haven't played it in years.
Me neither.
But I would love to play it sometime soon because I just miss when Nintendo really took advantage of all of those characters. I think that's my major complaint about the Switch era. It's like, give us more deep cuts. You see, like, compare Mario Kart 8's roster to Crash Team Racing.
Yeah.
And it's like, you have so many weird deep cuts in Crash, and then Mario Kart is playing it so safe.
But
with its decisions,
like stupidly safe. Like what? Like why on earth would you put in, like Baby Rosalina and Pink Gold Peach over literally any other characters in the entire Mario franchise? Like
I don't like using the word filler, but I mean Mario Kart 8 has a lot of filler. Like half of the roster. I mean, maybe not half of the roster. I actually don't dislike the Koopalings. I just think they're overused.
Yeah, I agree.
You know?
Recently, yeah.
Yeah. But even ignoring that, like, I think most people would rather not have, like, Mario and Peach in cat costumes than to have them on the roster. I don't think anyone's like, yeah, that's my preference. I want to use Mario in his cat outfit from Super Mario 3D World, which is also an underrated game. I really like 3D World.
Oh, yeah, I think I was just talking to a friend of mine from high school about this the other day, about how, like, I think 3D World got bashed on because like people on the Wii U wanted like a quote unquote true 3D Mario game. Yeah. But I think if 3D World were to be like re-released now, I think it would be like much more positively received because Odyssey is a thing that exists.
My hot take for 3D World is that 3D World walked so Odyssey could run.
Yeah.
Like you had a lot of weird stuff in 3D World. You had like the multi-boss blob, I think his name was, and Hissocrat, right? You had weird bosses and that awesome jazzy soundtrack and the amusement park theme. It's just like so many cool ideas in there. I can see why people would be frustrated with that and not wanting like 3D Land on consoles because it doesn't really push the Wii U to its limit like the other Mario games do for their respective consoles.
Yeah.
But if we had those ideas in a 3D Mario, people would love it.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
I think that's part of what Odyssey shows off too. It's like we have stuff like that, really cool, unique species and weird ideas, and putting them into a brand new traditional 3D Mario game.
Yeah, I completely agree.
But I'm sorry if we drifted too much.
No, I realized
I have
I was
strong
like,
opinions about this.
No, I mean, I think we share like very similar like what's the word I'm looking for? Like we have a very similar attachment to Nintendo in specific. So
Yeah.
So it's very easy for us to just sort of go off the rails. But
Totally,
back
yeah.
to you specifically in games. So you were super into the Wii.
I was very into the Wii. I got a DS later.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't really owned that many consoles that weren't Nintendo because I played whatever I couldn't play on Nintendo consoles on PC.
Yeah.
So like there were at least up until I was older and got exposed to stuff that's like, oh, you know what? I would really like to play like Persona 5, I still haven't. But but like until then I wasn't really interested in too many PlayStation exclusives.
Right.
Where I would be incentivized to like buy another console. Plus consoles are expensive.
Yeah.
It's just like
especially if you're a kid and you don't like have income.
Yeah, exactly. And I pretty much I have two major chances. I have my birthday and I have Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
And like if I can land a console on one of those two, then I'm good. I don't have to like save up for it or beg for it or anything,
Right.
But like now it's different because I could just I'm expected to do more on my own reasonably.
Mm-hmm.
But then I also have emulators, which are pretty handy. And I've been trying to go back and play a lot of those games that I missed because I didn't really get to grow up on that. So my goal for this summer is to play a lot of PlayStation 1 games.
What do you have in mind?
I wanted to get into Resident Evil.
Okay.
There's a Puyo game on PlayStation that I'm going to play really soon. It's also on N64, but it's like called Puyo Party there, and it's like a little bit different. But like the PlayStation and the Dreamcast versions are like the real versions of that game.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I've never played the original Metal Gear Solid.
Okay.
So that's on my list also. Castlevania Symphony of the Night.
Oh man, dude, I've never played any of these games, but these are like I mean, you've assembled the list of like the classics,
Well, at least they're gonna crucify us both for never playing them. But like, I've always wanted to play these games. It's like I've had no time to play stuff recently. I get like I have 1 or 2 new games a year that I get to play,
Mm-hmm.
and then past that, it's like I play puzzle games sometimes. Like really short games.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'll be able to fit in and play, but I haven't really had the opportunity to sit down and really like invest myself in something in a long time.
Yeah. Yeah. So speaking of, like more recently, what kind of games have you been playing in recent times as an adult?
Well, I've been playing Animal Crossing.
Okay.
That seems to be most people's go-to right now.
Yeah, definitely.
And I've really liked it. Like this kind of ties back into what we were saying. Like I kind of miss some of the elements of Animal Crossing from the past.
Mm-hmm.
But New Horizons is a good time. I like my villagers, so I keep coming back to them. I get personally attached to characters you really get to know in a video game.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm sappy about that kind of stuff. So Animal Crossing is definitely my kind of series in that regard.
One of the things that like honestly turned me it's such a weird thing to get hung up on, but one of the things that turned me off from New Horizons, like I played it for I think like 40 hours
right.
And then I just sort of I dropped it, but they don't have Nintendo themed items in that game.
You know what? Yeah, I'm bummed about that too. Although I'm kind of expecting them to add it in an update. That seems to be the way they're going.
Yeah.
Like you have because they've only done one big update so far, but they said that they're expecting to keep New Horizons packed with content for like 2 years,
Yeah.
So I imagine at some point they're gonna add more items, which will hopefully include the Nintendo items, because I always really, really liked collecting those.
Yeah, they were my favorite.
In City Folk, I remember having an R-Wing in my house. And like the light up Mario items and stuff. Those are really cool.
Really, really cool. So I definitely hope they do that. But that game, I mean, you're right. It's extremely good, and obviously there's a reason why it's just like blowing up. Like people are buying that game out the ass.
It came out at such a convenient time.
I know.
Like you would almost think it was intentional, but
yeah,
like it was just perfect timing.
It really was
for everyone to just find this escape from whatever the hell's going on right now.
Oh man, yeah. Preach to that. Awesome. So let's transition. Let's talk about the music half of it. So how did you like get into just like listening to music and your general taste, and then if you ever like played any music, and then obviously got into like making it yourself?
Okay, so I'll give a bit of a timeline.
Let's do it.
I grew up on like dad rock, you know.
Yeah. I figured.
My dad played a lot of our local radio stations. If you live in New Jersey or New York, you probably listen to 104.3. And that kind of like plays a bunch of classic rock. My dad loved that stuff, and I was exposed to it at an early age. Going back to games for a second, Guitar Hero 3 really
You are the third person to bring up Guitar Hero 3. Dude, that's insane. Yes, the third person.
Because it's such a, like, Guitar Hero was such a good way to find new music and new artists.
Yeah.
Exposing people who probably would have never found them otherwise to be like, oh, well, that's, like, I've never heard of these guys before. I've never heard of Rage Against the Machine before, but, like, here they are in Guitar Hero 3. I've never heard Cliffs of Dover before, but, like, you know, you have some of these songs that are, like, intrinsically tied to that game.
Yeah.
Through the Fire and the Flames, obviously.
Of course.
You know? And that definitely sent me down another path, listening to more artists. World Tour had a pretty good lineup, too.
Definitely, yeah.
They introduced me to System of a Down, which is cool.
You like System of a Down?
Yeah.
Wow. I would not have pegged you as a guy that likes System of a Down.
I listen to a lot of stuff.
Okay.
I just don't, you know, like... I think I'm characterized as a certain genre of music, but I listen to a lot of music.
Gotcha.
You know, Toxicity was one of my, like, you know, quote, childhood albums. Like, I listened to that a lot on my my iPod Nano.
Oh,
you
yeah,
know,
dude.
And, like, that was one of the albums that I had on there. And that was pretty much my traditional playlist, what I had on my iPod, which was limited to pretty much whatever I picked up at the library. I'd bring them home and like burn them onto iTunes,
right?
And
man,
and collect them there.
That's great.
And music collecting was so different.
It was so. I mean, I used to buy songs for like $1.29 on iTunes, like one song, and now you pay like $5 a month for Spotify. You get every song ever.
And Spotify is a godsend.
Oh,
I love Spotify.
It's a miracle product.
Yeah, and I get Hulu for free, and I haven't been taking advantage of that.
Oh, you should.
But
There's good stuff on Hulu.
Yeah. I started watching a couple things, but I need to get back on it.
No, wait, what'd you start watching?
I started watching Ranma, which is
Ranma?
You know, classic anime from the 90s.
Never even
by
heard
the same
of
creator as Urusei Yatsura.
Okay, well now I'm not surprised.
Rumiko Takahashi. But yeah, I mean, I love that art style, so I really wanted to like kind of engulf myself in that and inspire my, you know, get my artistic juices flowing a little bit. Yeah, music-wise, like, I had that stuff going for me, and then in 4th grade, I started playing saxophone.
Oh, I did not know that.
No?
No, that's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I'm, like, so jazzy, you know?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it makes a lot of sense.
Because I started playing alto in 4th grade. In 5th grade, my teacher chose me specifically to be like, okay, you can move up to tenor.
Ooh.
I'm like, okay, cool. And I stuck with tenor saxophone for the rest of my time at school. I unfortunately haven't played saxophone in a while, but I really want to find the time to do that again.
Do you think it's something that you could just like pick right back up and play again?
Yeah, honestly, I mean, I think once it's there, you know? You know, if you know how to play an instrument, if you look at sheet music, it's like, oh, I remember this. I know exactly the finger positions I need for this. The proper time signature and rhythms that you got to do. Like, I don't know. It's all in there. It's crammed in there. Because, I mean, band was such an important part of my growing up.
Yeah.
I played in marching band, which we'll get back to when we get back to Siiva. Because that's an important part of my lore. Yeah. And I played in jazz band. And jazz band introduced me to a lot of jazz music. And I started listening to, stuff like John Coltrane, which we'll also get back to. And listen to other saxophone players, or other big band music, which I still love. Like, listening to huge ensembles play this stuff. It's like one of my favorite things.
Definitely.
And then, like, when looking this stuff up on YouTube, like, I find random stuff in the suggestions. So it's like, oh, let me listen to this jazz fusion album. I got into Cassiopeia, which is a Japanese jazz group. I'm sure some people probably heard of them. They got pretty big recently, too, because Mint Jams has been getting suggested to a lot of people.
Mint Jams?
Mint Jams, yeah. It's like it's jazz fusion. Which is kind of hard for me to explain because I'm not like the most... Look, I know music, I can play music, but I can't explain to you like the intricacies of music. I could just be like, yo, this sounds really good, and it puts a good image in my head, Yeah. Like, because I think, I'm... for those who don't know, like, I'm an artist. I draw, I animate. So I think of music a lot of the time in the same sense. I visualize things in my head, and that's kind of how I enjoy music and experience that. So, but yeah, I got into jazz, and that kind of opened up a million different other doors for me. Now I listen to, like, everything.
Yeah.
I have this server with friends that we just kind of, like, share a bunch of shit, and it's like, I'm discovering new stuff every week, so I love that.
That's awesome.
And, I can enjoy any genre, really. Any kind of music. I'm not really defined by any particular style of music anymore. It's just kind of like, if you look at my, like, 5 favorite albums, they're, like, all different genres. So I'm kind of, like, proud of myself for that, because it's like, oh, I have a pretty good musical vocabulary.
Yeah, you're not too like one note, so to speak. No pun intended. But
right, yeah.
Awesome. And so that sort of, so you had the musical background. You were super into games, and so tell me the marching band story. Because was that how you discovered Siiva, or did you already know about it?
All right, so I came across the channel the way that you should come across the channel.
Good.
I was I was looking for something. I don't know which song I was looking for, but I ended up clicking on the channel when it was still Giva Sunner.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh, why did Gilva, like, upload all these random songs? Like, because I was kind of excited. Like, oh, they haven't uploaded anything in such a long time. It's like, why are all of these songs suddenly being dropped, like, seemingly completely randomly? They weren't tied to any particular game. Because usually, Gilva uploads in playlists.
Right, he'll like entire
They upload
soundtracks.
full soundtracks.
Yeah.
So I look on here and it's like, all right, you have a Super Paper Mario song, you have a Pokemon song, you have all this stuff. What's going on? So I clicked the Super Paper Mario one because, naturally, I talked about that. It's one of my favorite games.
Yeah.
And it was this, it was just like some guy singing along to the song, but like da 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 da. Like, I think that I don't even know if that rip is even on the channel anymore. But I'm like, oh, okay, this isn't what I was expecting. So I went back and looked at the other videos, and I'm like, oh, okay, now I get it. Like, this is a bait and switch channel, and I thought that was really fun, so I subscribed. And yeah, I was a big fan up until I joined the team. Now I'm, then I was a contributor.
Oh, I thought you were saying that. No, I don't
now
care
I hate
about it anymore.
No, but like, I loved Giva at the time, and I showed some of my friends, my friend Siegel, who is also a mod in fan server and a contributor. And he got into it with me. And I think the first one I showed him, was the Flintstones Metal Mario.
Okay, yeah.
And so I think I got into the channel around like that March probably, because I was around for the first time the channel went down.
Gotcha.
And also for Last Goodbye, and I was like, oh, is the channel actually ending? Hey, obviously that was not the case. But that's how I discovered the channel, and I just fell in love with it because it was similar to my interests.
Yeah.
There was a lot that I could like about it because it was like very much in tune with my, not only my sense of humor but also my my taste. And then so I figured now, like, how did I get onto the channel?
Sure.
So I was in marching band. This is my senior year.
Oh wait, this is how I didn't realize this is like how you got onto the channel. I thought this was like. Okay, sorry.
Well,
no,
okay, it's not how I got onto the channel, but it's an intrinsic part of how I got there.
Okay, go ahead.
So I was at my senior game. This was like the last big football game or last big home game.
Mm-hmm.
And I had taught the marching band how to play Nutshack and We Are Number One.
You taught them that.
Well, I was part of it, because
okay.
like it was me, Siegel, and a couple other people who I had gotten on board with these jokes in the channel.
Uh-huh.
So we started playing them around. Our teachers actually got really mad at us when they actually learned what Nutshack was and told us to stop playing it. There's a video of one of my band teachers like watching it, and we're showing it to him. I have a lot of good memories of this period of time. It was such a simpler time when, like, Siiva had that group of jokes that was just so, like, that was it, you know? It was the crux of the channel.
Right.
So, Nutshack was banned, but we still loved playing We're Number One. There's no reason to ban that.
Right.
And so what happened is we're like on the field getting awards because we're graduating.
Mm-hmm.
When I'm walking forward, the people in the stands, my friends in marching band, play We Are Number One to kind of like, ring in, because they played specific stuff for all of us as we walked up.
Right.
So they played We Are Number One for me, and I thought that was really nice. But as it turned out, when we got to halftime, this guy walks up to me. He's like, "Hey, were you the one who they played We're Number One for?" And I'm like, "Yeah." So I guess you're familiar with the meme. It's been around a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, "Well, actually, I'm a contributor to Siiva Gunner, if you've heard of it." And I kind of created that meme, and I'm like, "What?" So it was Nate Mango.
Right, of course.
And he was in the other marching band. Turns out he only lives a town away from me.
Wow.
So, we hit it off immediately, and he's still one of my really, really good friends.
Yeah.
So, but, we kept in touch after that, because it's like, oh, damn, imagine meeting someone in real life, not only that knows Siiva Gunner, but contributed to it.
Right.
Like, it's such a small world.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, after I met him, like, I kept in contact, and I'm like, oh, I want to start contributing to the channel or whatever. And he helped me get onto the art team.
Gotcha.
That's where I originally was on the team. I did some stuff for the CCC. I'm gonna be honest. I did some stuff.
Yeah.
The CCC isn't really my my favorite part of the channel, so I didn't really contribute all that much to it.
Right.
But
it was a good first step.
It got my foot in the door, and it was fun. It was great to be a part of that.
Definitely.
And from that point forward, I started to get to know people. I joined fan server because of that. Because I met Nick, and I'm like, Nick is Nape. Some of you guys probably know that. But then I'm like, oh, I want to get to know some of these other people. So I join fan server and meet a ton of different friends that I still have.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people who would eventually help me, also vouch for me to get on the art team and eventually get me into Rippers.
Mm-hmm.
And so once I got to Rippers, which was, kind of uneventful, it was like I submitted a couple things. I submitted one rip that actually never saw the light of day.
Oh, really?
It was a Mother 3 rip of Porky's theme, but like when the DCMC plays it, His Highness's theme.
Sure.
And it was of Haltman's theme because I'm like, oh, it's like it's a pretty easy comparison there.
Yeah.
And I actually tried to like remaster that rip another time, and I never finished it. I'm just not motivated to ever completely finish that. But I submitted it the one time, and they were like, "This is good, but it's not perfect, so it could use some work." But it was enough to like get my name out there.
Right.
I got onto the channel having not gotten any rips formally accepted.
Oh, I must have known that, but I forgot about that. But okay.
Because I submitted that, and I also submitted my I submitted a Saturn Valley rip with Temmie's theme, which is another simple joke.
Right.
And from that point forward, like, people already knew who I was from fan server and from Nape, and we're like, okay, you know what, let him into Rippers. And so I got in there, fixed up my Saturn Valley rip, which is on the channel, submitted some other stuff, and, it didn't take me very long to get QOC, which is quality control. I don't know if you've touched upon it in another episode of the podcast. But
hold on one second. Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, I'm doing something. Alright.
Does that stay in, or are we cutting that out?
I don't know. We'll find out in post.
All right, we'll figure it out as we go. Okay, so where was I?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it didn't take me very long to get promoted to QOC, which is like, we get to listen to the rips, we get to pass them off. We're the ones who accept and decline submission.
Mm-hmm.
There aren't really a lot of rejected rips that make it that far,
Yeah.
Like, to be honest, most rips that end up in the channel get accepted. So then I got to know people, and I guess they liked what I was bringing to the table, and I got backroom within like 2 months of joining Rippers.
Subtle
flex. Yeah, I mean, no big deal. No, it is really no big deal. Like, I look back at it now and it's like, yeah, whatever. But at the time it was like, oh, that's so cool.
Yeah.
I felt so good about getting that position. Now I'm just like, oh, well, it's been almost 3 years. It's
right. It's
kind of normal.
You're used to it. Yeah.
Yeah. I've been a part of Siiva for longer than I knew about Siiva without being on the channel,
Wow, that's weird.
Putting it in that perspective.
I think that's probably it's probably the same for me at this point. Wow.
Right, it's weird to think about that.
Yeah,
right?
It is.
Even though that span of time before I joined the team like felt like such a long time in contrast with how long I've been on the team, which felt like a year tops,
Right. Yeah.
But it's been much longer than that.
Definitely. So it has been a long time, and you've done quite a bit. So let's talk about your accomplishments and your contributions. So let's start. Let's before we dive into maybe like the sort of bigger scope things that you've done. Why don't you like list off a couple of like the rips or projects that you've like worked on that you deem your favorite?
That I'm proudest of?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, so, I have a feeling I know one of them, but...
Yeah, and I could get to that one, but I'm going to scroll through a bit and like kind of touch upon the earlier ones first.
Sure.
So the first rip that I was really, really proud of, in retrospect, is Because I Love You, PAL version. and it's it's an Earthbound rip of a Beatles song, Here, There, and Everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And I still go back and listen to that one. I still like how I did it, because I can listen to a lot of old rips and it's like, what did I do? Like, I could have fixed that,
Right. Yeah, I know that feeling.
But like this one is like I could go back to and it's like, oh, this is still really nice.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of kicked off. There is an earlier rip that I used PAL version, but this is like the big kickoff of when like me and ToonLink started creating a lot of Beatles rips for the channel.
Yeah.
And this was like one of the first Earthbound Beatles rips to drop, which is kind of a tradition now. And shoutouts to Adam, who has been keeping that tradition very alive. As me and ToonLink haven't been contributing as much to the channel, but you're still getting a very good supply of Earthbound and Mother 3 PAL version rips. So that's one of my favorite things that I've been able to do. Make Beatles rips, because they have such good melodies, and there's like there isn't really that much Beatles on the channel. There are like thousands of rips, and it's like where's the most iconic rock group of all time? There's like barely any of them, and everyone recognizes some of these songs.
And I love that too, because it's like part of what I love the most about Siiva Gunner, and admittedly, what I don't love so much about it lately is that for a long time, it was people just made rips of things that like they liked or that meant something to them, and so you had like these Beatles rips going up by you and Tim because like you guys were super into the Beatles, and it wasn't so nowadays it's a lot of like I saw this thing on Twitter, let's make 20 rips of it, but I like that sort of individualistic flair.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Although, like I said, like people like Adam, like he's still making Beatles rips.
Oh yeah, and it definitely still happens.
And those are great. There's been a movement, I'm sure some of you guys have noticed, but like they're trying to make Mother 3 rips for all of the songs that haven't gotten rips yet.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why there's been a lot of Mother 3 lately, but it's been cool to see that unfurl, because it's also Mother 3 is my favorite game ever. I didn't even touch upon that in the first part. But yeah, that's why I also have a lot of Mother 3 rips.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's easy to rip, and they're some of my favorite songs in video games. So, but in addition to that, there's one rip. It's the most viewed rip that I've created, and it's main theme Night. It's a Wii Shop channel rip.
Okay.
And it's almost at 200,000. I think you've got me beat with your Viva La Vida mashup, right?
Yeah, that one got pretty up there.
Yeah, but
that's the is that the Fly Me to the Moon one?
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
It's a Wii Shop channel with Fly Me to the Moon, and it's an okay rip. I mean, a lot of the comments say Frank Sinatra, which bothers me because Frank Sinatra didn't even write the song. Like, if they said Bayonetta or Evangelion, like, I wouldn't be as bothered as if they're saying, like, specifically Frank Sinatra.
Right.
But I guess I don't expect them to know the, original singer of Fly Me to the Moon. I don't even know them off the top of my head, so.
Right.
But that one's gotten around. It's okay. It's like, not one of my favorite rips that I've made. So, I kind of wish one of the cooler rips I've made gotten that big, but, still, a lot of people have enjoyed the ones that I'm proud of, so I'm glad about that too.
Yeah.
There's this one. There are a few. Do you ever like look through your playlist and be like, "Man, this string of rips is like really cool. Like, I did a really good thing through these months."
Yeah. I mean, I always laugh when I look at my rips playlist and I look at the part where I made 4 chip mashups and uploaded them in one day.
Well, I guess that's a streak in a sense.
But otherwise, I don't really like what in particular are you referring to?
Like I created the where's the first one? Like after Because I Love You, I created the Driftville City rip with Calamari Incantation.
Oh, I didn't know you made that.
Yeah,
that's a classic.
That was like such an obvious rip.
Mm-hmm.
It's like this one just has to. That's part of the other fun of creating rips. It's like how did this not exist yet? This is such an obvious comparison, you know?
Yeah.
So you just make that because you know that in putting it out there, a lot of people are going to be like, oh, shit, I thought of this too. Or it's like, oh, thanks a lot, I'm never going to unhear this.
Yup.
And I love that aspect of the channel also, and being able to do that.
Just completely ruin songs for people.
Yeah, exactly. It's the best. And, finding new ways to do that all the time, even if it's just to your friends, it's very satisfying.
Definitely.
And then there's Here Comes the Squeaks, We Are Number One.
Of course.
And, like, that streak of rips is, like, I really like those. I'm still proud of those. I don't know. This is, like, a silly tangent, but it's like, sometimes I look at these groups and it'll represent chunks of, like, different times I was on the channel, you know?
Absolutely.
Like, I'll remember when I was making those rips and, like, how things were at the time, that kind of... that's an extra part of the experience that the listeners don't get. It's like, there's a lot of stories behind some of these.
Yeah.
And, we'll touch upon those later, probably, for a couple of them. Like, the ones I didn't make, because I do want to touch upon, like, some of my favorite rips, and I'll talk about some of the background there, too. But, another rip that I made that I like is, the Metal Mario rip with, Metallic Madness. Which is another one that I felt was pretty obvious, but that's one of them that I listen to and it's like, oh, this kind of sounds official, and that's a good feeling.
Yeah, definitely.
It's like you can't nitpick anything wrong in it. And I mean, I keep mentioning that, but I'm not really that critical of myself, you know?
Yeah.
At least not for this. For my art, yes, but for rips, not really. Like, now it's like, if I, like, to be honest with you, like, if there's one tweak that I can't figure it out, it's like, I hope they don't notice. I'll just throw it in there.
Right.
And, they'll be like, finally, like, nobody's gonna care. People are gonna listen to it and not recognize it.
Especially, like, I think a lot about, how, like, I don't want to say bad, but, like, how comparatively bad, like, early, like, 2016 rips were, and, like...
There's a lot of charm to it, but it's like, how did we do that,
right, Right, but, like, nevertheless, like, there were inaccuracies, and there were, like, stuff that's just, like, not great, but the channel still grew, and people still loved it. So, like, now, when we're at the point where, like, quality standards are way up, even if there's, like, a couple things that are a little bit off, like, the majority of the people listening are not gonna care or notice, The
fact is... like, how many of our listeners are really musically inclined, Like, I mean, this is not to disrespect any of our fans, I'm not trying to.
Of course.
But, like,
I'm not even musically inclined. It's not a...
Exactly, yeah. A lot of the people on the team wouldn't recognize some of these very little mistakes that we send rips back for. But I guess it's a personal pride thing. It's like, for some reason or another, the channel still has integrity. So, like, people still want to put out the best content. And that's also to respect the fans, It's like, we don't want to just, like, throw out garbage and, like, say, you guys are gonna like this anyway, Because we like, we like to take pride in what we create.
Of course.
And then hear people appreciate the effort that we put into it. And that's a lot of the satisfaction of doing that. So yeah, there's one rip, Calcium, which is a rip of Bomberman Hero. It's a rip of the song Milky, but we called it Calcium because it was a Sans related rip. So
I do.
But I say
remember
we.
that one, yeah.
I say we because I collaborated with TuneLink on this one. And I think this was my first collaborative rip. Yeah, it was. And not counting, like, actual collabs. I contributed to the Woodman collab, but I didn't know how to do Bomberman Hero because, like, some of the instruments felt really dry and I didn't know how to mix them. So I'm like, hey, Tim, can you help me with this? And he tweaked a few things, and that's one that I'm still really happy with also. As you can tell, like, I'm really happy with a lot of my rips.
Which is,
I
mean, that's a good thing.
Yeah, because I've always went into this with the mentality that you create the stuff that you want to hear.
Yeah.
So that's why, like, I have a favorite rips playlist. I don't put like all my rips in there, but I put some of them in there because it's like I'm satisfied with how this turned out, and I always wanted to hear this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
no harm in that. I listen to my own stuff all the time.
Yeah, and it just, there's obviously, again, the added benefit to, like, remembering when you made it, and, like, there's a personal attachment there to, like, oh, here's all the stuff we did. Are there any rips of mine that you particularly want me to cover?
I mean,
aside from the obvious one.
The obvious one is the obvious one.
Okay.
That's, I mean, I don't know if you saw, but
I did see.
You did see.
Actually just saw that today. For some reason, I looked up, what did I looked up my name in fan server for some reason. I think it was because of the VGM game, because we were playing and I had joined for like a brief moment, and I needed to look at something again. But I scrolled down and I saw like this big write up about how much you love this rip, and it was flattering. Obviously, obviously it wasn't just me either.
No, of course.
So Route 228 was a collaborative rip between me, Nate Mango, Toonlink, and MTH. So me and Nate, or can I call him Nick?
Yeah, I don't think he cares.
Yeah, Nick, Tim, and just for posterity, I'll call MTH Emma.
Yeah.
So me and Nick were hanging out because we live a town over, so sometimes we just hang out. That's I'm so glad that I have that opportunity.
Yeah.
I hope I get to take advantage of it this summer, but who knows?
Yeah.
And like our first collaborations were actually just creating dumb rave DJs. But this time we were like, let's make a rip together because Nick wanted to create something for the Magfest album. And so we decided to make it a sequel to his Route 216 rip, which is another amazing rip. And it's similar in the sense this rip is a big medley of a bunch of different jokes, and the Route 216 rip is like that also. So this one takes it a step further.
Yeah.
But it's a really fun experience to create this with someone in person. I don't think a lot of people have gotten that opportunity.
Definitely not, yeah.
And I don't know, I think that kind of shows through also, because it's like, we can just bounce ideas off of one another and be like, oh, let's throw this in here, I don't even think like one person could really do that. Because you need multiple perspectives on this, or else it's just going to be repetitive. Like you said also in your write-up, like, me, Nick, and Tim all have, like, similar but different interests.
Yeah.
So, like, my portion, there's a Giant Steps part. That's obvious, And then, like, Tim's portion is unmistakably him. Like, you have My Boo, and you have the Fly Me to the Moon part, but, I mean, Fly Me to the Moon isn't really a Tim song, but it's, like, the way he does it, he puts a very unique spin on this.
It is extremely Tim. You're
on
definitely,
his part.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, so, yeah, I mean, if you can look up Route 228 Night for the listeners that don't know the exact rip that
it's playing right now.
Oh, okay, cool. And, I also enjoyed, like, creating a rip that people could go back to and always find something new in.
Yeah.
Like, we stuffed, I don't know, probably, like, at least 50 songs into this. And, I mean, that might be an exaggeration, but we put a lot of songs in it. And some of them are more subtle than others. One of the fun things was checking the wiki and seeing how that updated and which ones they caught. And I think there were one or two that I'm like, how did they even hear this? Like, it isn't even in there. But at one point I actually did write up all of the jokes in there because we had to re-upload for the when the channel got taken down. So I'm like, screw it. Everyone in the other comment section did such a good job, like, scouting out all of these jokes that I'm just gonna give it to them. But you know, me, Nick, and Tim did, or Nick, Tim, and I, whatever. We did most of the we did most of like the parts with the jokes. Emma, you know, MTH. She helped with the ending.
Yeah.
And some of the tweaks, some of the mixing, because it was clipping a little bit, but she helped us make it sound as good as possible for the album, and added her own ending, because she was like, it kind of ends abruptly, so what if I like did this? And we're like, yeah, go for it, you know?
Yeah.
And I really like that too, because like her ending is really like fun and jazzy.
Yeah,
and
it
just like
fits perfectly.
It's like this original melody, and it's really cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm really proud of that rip. I really like big rips like that, or collaborative rips that aren't really advertised as collabs. It's just like you come across it and it's like, oh wow, this is really something. Like, how did I not hear this before? You know? Like that even happens to me like on the channel. Obviously, I don't see or hear every single rip that goes up.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes I go back, it's like, how did I miss this? It's so like, it's so impressive, but it's just, you have rips listed alongside one another, and it's like, one of them is just, you know, Flintstones, which is good, you know, and then one is like a huge arrangement, and they're listed alongside one another. It's why Siiva's like such a grab bag, you know. It's like you never know what you're gonna get there,
right?
And I guess with Route 28, it's like, in a way, I think we wanted to capture that spirit also, of like, here's a grab bag because here are all of these jokes thrown at you. A lot of the motivation is like, at least on my end when I was making it, it's like, let's create something that really embodies the spirit of the channel. And you know, like I said, I'm kind of sappy. I like doing that kind of stuff. That's like a big representation or culmination of like things that mean a lot to me. And yeah, I mean, I think we got to do that a lot with this rip. Sorry, I know I'm rambling a little bit about this.
No, it's,
but,
I mean,
you know, there's a lot to it, I guess.
Yeah, no, it's good to hear you talk about it. Obviously, that rip is, I mean, it's one of my favorites just ever made.
It's one of your favorites. Chase said it's one of his favorites.
Yeah.
People on the channel and in fan servers still talk about it. So, I mean, like, I think we really succeeded there, because a lot of people hold that rip in very high regard.
Yeah. I mean, I used to like put it on and walk to class, or I used to, I mean, I would listen to it while doing homework. I mean, I've listened to that rip more times than I can even count. It's just, it is like, in every single way, it is a masterpiece. So, and for some reason,
Thank you. And,
I didn't talk about it with
obviously,
him when he was on. So I'm glad to have heard you give me
there you go.
Deets.
Yeah. Well, you know, Tim has a lot more to talk about than I do.
Oh,
I'm just going to be honest about that. Tim has created so many rips, it isn't even funny.
Yeah.
You know? So,
very true.
Got a lot of... It's probably best that I talked about it anyway, because he could cover a lot more ground.
Yeah, and he did. Awesome. Well, I think that's a good point to sort of jump off and let's cover the sort of like the big stuff that you've sort of spawned and been a part of. In terms of the things that I listed here, are these in the right order chronologically? I think they are, right?
Yes.
These three.
No, these are. Yeah.
Okay.
Coltrane Day was the first day that I organized.
All right, so give me the origin story about how you got that up and going.
Coltrane Day. All
yeah.
Right, so, you know, I really liked John Coltrane, and some of my friends we would joke about him and like jazz stuff, like, you know, Sen and Cyrano, and yeah, a bunch of other people, but like always joke about jazz. And one of the former Siiva contributors, he's not really active anymore, but Kat, he was the first one to post the augmented triad face.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And from that point forward, I think I discovered it like months afterwards. I think Sen probably posted it or something. I'm like, oh, that's really funny, you know? But I had this idea where I would rip the drowning theme from Sonic, but it wasn't actually the drowning theme. I would just take Giant Step and make it progressively faster, while the augmented triad face is on the screen telling you to repost in 30 seconds. And I guess, like, I made this for fun, but then I sent it to Chase, and I'm like, yo, can I actually upload this? And he's like, yeah, sure. So I uploaded it, and that was, like, the origin of Coltrane on the channel.
Right.
But Coltrane Day didn't come till later. Kind of there wasn't really that much, like, lead-in for it, I guess. It was just kind of like, I want to do a Coltrane Day. A lot of people in back room were like, yeah, sure, that'd be fun, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So I had brought it up to Rippers. It isn't, like, a huge day. It has, like, 12 rips, and a lot of them are pretty short, because, I mean, admittedly, Giant Steps is a very hard song to work with.
Yeah. No kidding.
But, it was cool that I was able to get that running.
Yeah.
And I think introduce a lot of people to John Coltrane, and other jazz musicians probably find a lot of stuff tangentially. You know, you listen to Coltrane, it's like, oh, you know, Miles Davis and Charles Mingus and all this stuff. I mean, I don't know if you know those guys.
I know. I mean, I know Miles Davis. Everybody
know
knows
Miles. Everyone knows Miles Davis, but yeah, Coltrane Day was a smaller event, but it was fun. This is a case of, like, there were a few rips where I, like, badgered people to be like, you got to make this, you know? Like, I told Crystal Force, I told him the idea I had about creating Drowning for Sonic 2, and actually arranging Giant Steps in the Sonic style, to, like, work off of the original joke. So he was able to do that, and it was great. There was one shitpost that I think, oh man, I can't. It was Czar and Sen worked together on it. I don't remember who originally created it, but it was Bird Up. And you know, it was a Bird Up rip, and it was just to the tune of Giant Steps. And I was like, yeah, you guys gotta finish this, it's so funny. Like, it would be a great addition to Coltrane Day. So, stuff like that. Like, I was very enthusiastic about getting as much participation as possible, because it's hard. Like,
definitely, yeah.
Coltrane wasn't an established thing on the channel yet, and I mean, it's still a sporadic thing now, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So, like, getting a bunch of people to be excited about this source that's really difficult to use, and isn't really that established on the channel yet, is a little bit difficult. Like, getting people excited for that event. But, fortunately, me and a few other friends, like, we were already joking about Coltrane and stuff, and were able to put some of that together. Cyrano, Blue Fairy, he made 2 rips for that day. One is the Beloved Tomboyish Girl jazz arrangement, which is really good.
I don't think I remember that one.
You gotta look it up.
I'll find it and throw it on the screen. Yeah.
It's like in the style of Blue Train. So, you know, which is one of Coltrane's projects.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, Blue Train, Blue Fairy. I'm sure that was the intention there, but it was very good. And yeah, I mean, I don't know. It was a fun time. I enjoyed getting people excited about something that I'm passionate about. And that's part of the fun of event days, I think. Is like, especially if you get to do it about something you genuinely like. Like, we have funny event days, but it's like, oh, let's have this event day where we make rips about, like, legitimate jazz music.
Yeah.
And there's some humor to that too, I guess, you know, because, like, where did that even come from, you know? I think that's kind of the glory of that too. It's like, oh, well, we're just dropping Coltrane rips. Why not?
Right.
Just like,
And
Classic jazz.
it kind of stuck. Like Giant Steps is not it's not like vanished from the channel. Like it still pops up every now and again.
Yeah. Like a lot of people use it for like jingle rips,
Mm-hmm.
which is fun. You know, it's exploitable for that for sure.
Definitely.
And I've had a couple ideas that I wanted to do with other Coltrane songs, but I really haven't had the time. I wanted to make a sequel to Coltrane Day, but there are a lot of things that got in the way of that.
Yeah.
KFAD, for one, and just generally, like, there were a lot of people wanted to make events, and it was like,
yeah,
I wanted to play by the books and be like, let me plan it out this way, and then meanwhile the events were stacking up, and it's like, do I want to pile it on top of all this stuff? Are people even gonna care? You know?
Right.
So maybe someday. I mean, I'm still interested in making more Coltrane content or encouraging more Coltrane content.
Yeah,
but
definitely do.
But yeah, that was one of my, I guess, bigger moments as a manager of the channel.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, oh, my first event day, even though it isn't one of the biggest ones. I think people still look back on that one fondly.
Yeah,
and
I know.
I'm
sure.
happy about that.
Yeah. So speaking of sort of event days that had sources that weren't native to the channel and therefore were a little difficult to get people excited about, Sean Kingston Day, which I think was way more of a success than anybody could have imagined it being.
All right, so the history of this event is really funny.
Yeah,
because
do tell.
Initially, Sean Kingston. We had a conversation in one server. We were talking about 2000s pop songs.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of them we liked, a lot of them we didn't. Turtle 3, he posted Beautiful Girls, and he said, I hate this song. I fucking hate this song. So naturally, being such great friends, we started posting it more. And it eventually found its way to Backroom, and Chase found it really funny also. Spur of the moment, Chase is like, let's do a Sean Kingston Day. And I'm like, okay, that'd be hilarious. Because, like, who's expecting that? Like,
right.
Does anyone even remember this song off the top of their head? Like, who's thinking about Beautiful Girls in 2018?
Right.
You know? But if you hear that melody, you're gonna be like, oh shit, I know this song.
Of course.
It's like, I hated this song. And that's, I guess, part of the appeal there. Chase actually started to kind of unironically enjoy Sean Kingston.
Yeah.
Which was a twist. But, because he had that mashup album, too.
Mm-hmm.
But we introduced it to Rippers, and they're like, what? Like, what is this? Like, these stupid backroom in-jokes are getting too far. Like, we don't know what this is. We don't care about it. You know? Like, people were legitimately upset. Like, why are you putting this on us? But surprisingly, it was received very, very well.
Yeah.
The fans really enjoyed it. The Rippers really enjoyed it to the point that Beautiful Girls is still a pretty frequent melody on the channel.
Yeah, definitely.
And I consider it a success in the sense that, like, we were able to introduce something that had never been on the channel before, and people could still latch onto it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and I think that's, I think one of the best ways to do an event day. Like, if you do an event day of just something that's been on the channel a million times, like, that's fine, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, if you do an event for something that isn't prominent on the channel, this is why I pushed for a lot of, like, KFAD characters that weren't represented very heavily on the channel, too.
Right.
Because it's like, it's so much more satisfying to introduce something brand new.
Absolutely.
And so we introduced this random 2000s pop star that nobody remembers, and said that he died in a jet ski accident. Or, technically a snowmobile accident.
Right.
But that was Z's rip, Kraz ZZ.
Yeah.
He created the a take on snowmobile accident, which I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with. And made it jet ski accident, and just put a PNG of a jet ski in the snowmobile accident and ripped Slider to Beautiful Girls, and I think that's probably my favorite rip of
It's
that.
a classic.
It's so funny.
It's so funny. I love that one so much. Awesome. So I think that covers sort of like the two big days that at least I associate with you the heaviest.
Those were definitely the two big ones that I was involved with.
Mm-hmm.
I can't really remember any others that I was like specifically involved with. I've obviously contributed to more events, but
right, of course.
Those are the ones that I kind of helped pioneer.
Yeah, you championed those a bit. And so the only other thing left to cover, and I'm actually surprised, I realized this as well, like you are the first person on the podcast so far that's really contributed to KFAD in like a somewhat meaningful way.
Okay, yeah.
So tell me a bit about like your involvement with KFAD, what you worked on, and what you did there.
All right, so my contributions to KFAD are very behind the scenes.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this was a time where I was really stressed out from school.
Mm-hmm.
I was handling a lot of stuff at school, but I had so many ideas that I wanted to contribute to KFAD. Unfortunately, I didn't get to like contribute any actual arrangements, which I'm still bummed about. And the art that I created, Larry helped me finish that, which I'm still very thankful for, and he did a great job with it.
Yeah.
But I'm bummed that I didn't get to contribute to KFAD as much as I wanted. But I was very involved in the planning stages and deciding, like, picking emails out, talking about characters' source lists, and I really wanted to make everyone feel fresh and unique. Give them all a very distinct vibe, I guess, because to me it's like a fighting game roster. That's kind of what we're dealing with.
Yeah, it's like
here.
the whole
So
idea.
It's like bring in characters that all have something completely unique that nobody else can do.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the incentive with some of the decisions, and I mean, I'll talk more about the ones that I had more involvement in. But I mean, there's one obvious one that I think everyone relates to me.
Right.
Which I thought you were gonna.
Oh, I
no,
know.
it's.
I
thought you were gonna ask again. I mean, it's obviously Eminem.
Right,
like,
of course.
If you follow me on social media or have interacted with me in fan server or something, you know that like I joke around about Eminem a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why. He's just like intrinsically really funny.
I mean, that's his shtick, right? Like he especially like Slim Shady Eminem, like he's a goofy, funny guy.
I will say I genuinely enjoy classic Eminem.
Me too.
I really like his classic albums.
Fantastic.
His modern stuff is terrible, but it's enjoyable in its own way.
Yeah.
Because what I did with his later albums is I listened to them in a group call with a lot of my friends, and that is the best way to experience those albums.
Mm-hmm.
Just like, I don't know, if you can listen to shitty albums with your friends, like that's just a really good time. But back to Eminem specifically, like I had, for some reason, I didn't really grow up on the song My Band. I know you did.
Oh, I grew up on that song is an understatement, but yeah.
And you know what? I'm still bummed that there was no karaoke at MagFest because I really wanted to sing that with you.
Yeah, I know. We'll make it happen. We'll make it time. Happen. Yeah.
But so I didn't really grow up with My Band. I discovered it one day, and I found the end portion with My Salsa really funny.
Yeah.
I don't know why. And so I started like shit posting about it and being like, oh, you know, like, where is it, Eminem? Like, you should have released My Salsa like years ago. Like, this song was written in 2004. Where is it? You know?
Mm-hmm.
But then I kind of rolled with this and eventually started joking about Eminem generally more and more. And with some of my friends that I talk about music, like Eminem's kind of like a running gag there.
Mm-hmm.
And when we put KFAD suggestions, when we had that in Backroom, like pitches, I was like, okay, you know, I'll just throw Eminem in there, it'd be funny. I wasn't really like...
You weren't expecting it to go anywhere.
I mean, I wanted it to.
Of course.
But, like, I I wasn't, I guess, completely serious about my suggestions. It was just like, wouldn't it be funny if Eminem was in and he was in his My Salsa uniform? And it was such a niche joke that, like, if they asked me, like, can we just do normal Eminem? I'd be like, it loses a lot of that initial appeal for me, but, like, I would have understood, I guess, if there was, like, that much pushback where it's like, fine, we'll do that, you know?
Right. Yeah.
But I pitched this around this salsa theme because I thought my logic behind that was like, let's bring in Eminem, but like pretend he was here last time. Like, because everyone's getting these buffs that's like turning them into completely different characters.
Right.
So if Eminem was normal last time, what would his buff be? And it's like, well, probably one of his goofy outfits from the music videos. So I wanted to roll with that, and a lot of people liked the idea, or maybe I begged my friends to to support it enough, but somehow Eminem got voted as the second most backroom pick. Surprisingly, a good deal behind Hobart, which I'll also talk about a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, Eminem was the big one for me, and I think part of Eminem's like lousy placing, I kind of blame myself for. It's like I had ideas for contributing to Eminem, I just didn't have any time to create them. Mm-hmm. So it's like we ended up being pretty scarce with Eminem, but I want to say that his presence on the Mojo was fun enough to probably make that up for people.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like I had a lot of fun writing him on there, and I know that some of our other writers incorporated him too and had a lot of fun with that. Bum Soldier created the Panty Raid story on the Mojo, and that's one of my favorites. If you haven't read that one, then you can hunt that down. There are a lot of the Mojo stories, and that's one of the many parts of KFAD. We really, looking back, like the fact that we were able to pull off KFAD 2 is a miracle.
Seriously, honestly.
Like, there was so much involved there that I think, like, we're still feeling that, mm-hmm. You know? We're still mm-hmm. feeling the rupture of that. Like, yeah. God, we really did all that, so now we're just chilling.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I feel bad saying we, because, again, I wish I contributed a lot more. But I love contributing ideas. I love trying to guide people in the right direction, even if I can't really participate, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So I was, again, very active in character selection. Search the emails and stuff. I actually wanted to submit Mariah Takeuchi myself, because I was like, that'd be really cool, like getting city pop representation. And she's kind of hot right now with the algorithm memes, which kind of died out by the time she got in there.
Yeah.
But I felt like that wasn't a joke that was going to get stale. It's just like, yeah, everyone knows Plastic Love now. It's all over YouTube, you know?
Yeah.
But I found her in the emails, and I'm like, oh, this is great. You know, we can choose this as one of the fan decisions. And I ran it by Kinshi and Shays, and they're like, yeah, let's do it. I had no idea that she was going to get second place.
I don't think anybody did.
I was like, okay, you know, this would be a fun character to add, and it would introduce people to a new music genre. I'm totally down for that. I think that would be great.
Mm-hmm.
And that just completely surpassed everyone's expectation. And
yeah.
I am so happy that happened.
Yeah. I mean, the arrangements for her were, like spectacular. Like, way more amazing. So than I could have thought.
They were amazing. Some of my favorites of the tournament.
Mm-hmm.
And when the first round hit, I kind of lost all hope. Like, it was like, oh, all these Nintendo characters are winning. That's about it. You know?
Right.
This is what's going to happen. This is how it's going to end up.
Yeah.
It's kind of how it ended up last time, except with Hypercam, because he's a funny meme character. Yeah, not to disrespect Hypercam, but I mean, like, there was certainly a novelty to that.
Very clearly going to be, like, the front runner, yeah.
Yeah. And the second round, Mariah beat Off the Hook, which is insane, because they got second place last time.
Yeah.
And nobody was expecting that. I was like, she's done for. Like, first round loser, but I hope people at least appreciated the fact that she's here.
Mm-hmm.
And Yeah, the rest is history there. I mean, I'm very satisfied with um, how the standings turned out in the end. I
Me
mean,
too, yeah.
some of my favorites lost out early, but the fact that, like, I don't think there's a more perfect final than Professor K and Mariah. I think that was,
Yeah.
like,
I
perfect.
was surprised that Professor K like got as far as he did, but like once he was there, I was like really excited
Obviously.
about it. I'm glad that
Yeah.
obviously he ended up winning, and because like his stuff, his arrangements in particular were just like banger after banger after banger, so good.
I kind of had a feeling that he was going to make it far because when Artificial Amateurs dropped in first K-Fed, everyone was
Everyone was
like,
like,
fuck, I should have voted for this character.
yeah, yep,
So this was retribution, and also for Weird Al,
Mm.
who got pretty far,
yeah,
with not a lot of arrangements, so he got kind of lucky.
hmm
I wish he got more. I know a lot of people were disappointed about that, but I mean, I hope the polka medley made up for that.
Oh, yeah.
That's one of the greatest things on the channel, and I'll stand by that.
Oh, absolutely. I remember. I don't
Shout outs
know.
to fucking Wolfman, who is just like amazing.
Yeah,
You know,
like
like
I said it last week, or I guess 2 weeks ago. But like whenever I decide to get him on the podcast, that episode is actually just going to be like 3 hours long. Because
it has to be. He can talk about every single one of his arrangements. You know, like
yeah, that
he
dude
did
is
so many. He did
ridiculous.
so much great stuff for that project.
Mm-hmm.
We couldn't have done it without him. Really,
No way.
he and Hinchy like are the lifeblood
Yeah.
of K-Fed, and we couldn't have done it without them.
No. Yeah.
I mean,
Honestly.
and I feel bad saying this kind of stuff because again, like I didn't get to contribute all that much,
Mm-hmm.
like from a physical level. I didn't get to add that much, but I'm happy seeing a lot of the things that I got to plan out come into fruition.
Yeah.
Something
Always
I
fun.
did get to contribute to also. Well, there are two things. I'll talk about this one first. My salsa. I didn't like arrange that. That was Knight of Games,
Mm-hmm.
who is amazing and one of my favorite rippers. And Wolfman came in clutch and sung my salsa because our original plan wasn't to have Wolfman singing. It was actually to have a collaboration with Anthony Fantano.
Oh, whoa! I did not know that.
Yeah, because we were gonna have his alter ego Cal Chasista sing my salsa, and that would have been pretty funny.
Mm-hmm.
But I kind of like that Wolfman sung it because, like, I think now the arrangement was able to kind of stand on its own and not be like, oh wow, this was a collaboration with Anthony Fantano, which would have been amazing. But I like that it has that like homegrown touch,
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely.
But so I got to contribute to the lyrics. I got to help Knight out with the lyrics because he was like, I don't really know what to do with this part, and I'm like, I would love to contribute to this. This is like the one thing that I wanted to happen.
Mm-hmm.
This K-Fed, so please just let me help,
Yeah.
And that was really fun.
Yeah. It turned out awesome.
I'm really happy with the fact that was able to happen, and I mean, I think. Even though Eminem didn't make it very far or get very many arrangements, the fact that exists is like pretty much the justification for him being there.
Yeah.
And I'm happy that happened. And I also got to contribute to trailers.
Oh yeah.
I wrote the Papyrus trailer and I wrote the Dr. Piccolo trailer. The Papyrus trailer I worked on with Z again. And I wanted to make the dialogue sound as authentic to Undertale as possible.
Mm-hmm.
I really wanted to be true to the characters and create this scene that could easily be envisioned in the actual game.
Right, and it totally came off that way.
Z did an amazing job of
Yeah.
keeping up the pacing and replicating the visuals.
Yeah.
And I'm really happy with how that trailer turned out.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like it came right out of the game.
There's one thing that I regret though, and it's that I almost had Papyrus call Sans a good for nothing, and it's like, looking back, it's like he wouldn't say that. Papyrus is nicer than that. He might get upset, but like he wouldn't call Sans like a good for nothing.
Mm-hmm.
This is how I look back at my art and be like, oh, I could have done that differently. That's just the mindset,
Right.
But I mean, overall, I'm really happy with how that trailer turned out, and I think that kicked off like this fucking like the trailers after that. We got
Yeah.
like that gigantic Ace Attorney trailer, by Coach, and I feel like after the Papyrus trailer, it's just like people started being like, all right, you know what? Let's make story trailers. Like, let's the Missing No trailer, right? Like he has more character driven, dialogue driven trailers and telling more stories about how the characters got there. And I mean, I'm not trying to pat myself on the back here, but
Yeah.
I think but I'm glad that happened because those trailers are very cool, and I think it helped people to invest themselves more in the characters also.
Yeah, it was a good like precursor for like all the character driven Mojo stuff that came up as well.
And the Dr. Piccolo trailer I wrote, I'm gonna be honest, I don't know as much about Dragon Ball Z as a lot of other people probably would have. Like I think other people would have been better suited to write that than me, but I tried to just replicate that like excited narrator vibe, and then we got Lil Karibo to narrate.
Yeah,
He
that
does
was
the
awesome.
Abridged, which is a really cool collaboration. I mean, we got to collaborate with so many amazing people in
Mm-hmm.
KFAD,
I know.
and just seeing that unfurl was amazing. Um, but but yeah, I mean, being able to write that stuff and then seeing it come to life through other talent. I mean, that's kind of what Siiva's all about. You can bring one thing to the table, and then other people can bring their own viewpoints and talents, and that it just becomes this huge melting pot of interests and talents, and I think that's why Siiva is something special. It's not any one particular thing. It's just all of these people
Right.
putting what they love into the channel.
I could not agree with you more. So I think that's a great point to end off on, if that's all right with you.
I guess so. Yeah. I mean, unfortunately, I didn't get to talk about Hobart, but we'll do that another time.
Yeah. I like I said.
I think a
hopefully
lot of
we'll
people
reach a
know that
point.
story by now. Anyway,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah. It's well documented for sure.
yeah.
I want to give you the opportunity to do some plugging. Where can people find you on social media and stuff?
Okay. Well, I post more Siiva related stuff on my personal Twitter, which I'm named Rap God on Twitter, and my username is underscore Louis G underscore. It's Louis G as in the name Louis with a G.
Right.
I blew a lot of people's minds when I had them read that out loud. New guy included.
It shook me up for sure.
So now you know that secret if you didn't before. And my art account is at SPR Tunes, which is pretty self-explanatory. SPR Tunes, like cartoons. And there I post a lot of, well, not a lot. I want to do more over the summer. I've been very preoccupied with school. But there I post my characters that I created with Deadline, who I'm sure a lot of you are also familiar with. Gina and Shoelace and a bunch of other characters within that world. And hopefully we'll be able to talk about that some other time.
Mm-hmm.
But if you want to see some of what I'm up to there, you can check out that account. I'm hoping to start drawing more character stuff and some more fan art over the summer. And also, if you like Gina, if you like the Ginaverse characters, then also follow Deadline, who I obviously couldn't do that without.
Right, of course.
So he's in my bio. I'm sure a lot of you follow him already, though.
He's
quite the following.
He really does. Awesome, and all those links will be down in the description as well. And yeah, I think that's gonna do it. Sean, thank you again for joining me this week. It was a lot of fun having you on.
Thank you so much. I love rambling about things.
Yeah,
so.
and I love sitting here and being rambled at. And I'm sure, I mean, the whole point of a podcast, right, is you could like put it on while you like play a game or do something, and
Right.
It's good to have that sort of conversational, just hear about what the person's all about.
Yeah, I
So,
was hoping coming in it'd just be like, talk about whatever.
Yeah.
And how it flows.
Yep.
Because a lot of this stuff I just love talking about anyway. So
Yeah.
I'm happy that we got to do this.
All right, awesome. Thank you all for tuning in for the 5th episode. We will hopefully be back next week. I know I haven't been doing a great job of keeping it weekly, but hopefully from here on out things should be smooth sailing. So thanks again, and we'll see you next week.
Hey, new guy, I have an idea actually.
Oh, what is your idea?
You should end this with the augmented triad face.
Oh yes. Wait, how do I do it? Just put it up?
Yeah, just put it up.
All right.
Play the drowning rip at the end of this.
All right. Well,
that way they all have to repost it.
Here's John Coltrane to play us out.